All right, welcome everybody. Just have to get plugged into the real world here so I can hear what's going on. Got some music, I think, happening in the background. There we go.
This is how I'd learn AI in 2026 if I wanted a fresh start at 50. Watch this.
So as you know, I've been popping up recently. We got a little bit of so we can play notes from the A minor pentatonic scale, right? Over this. This is in the key of A or A minor. So you could play I'm playing within the typical open or position 1, well, I guess you call it, by the monk, right? I could pretty much play anything. It's nice to match, should match the A's, and you got to get the rhythm down so you kind of have it. So I'm staying pentatonic here, just sliding out of position a little bit. But for the most part, I'm in. We also know this is like 4-note box. You know, I've often explained it as a 4-note box. That's all it is. It's a 4-note box from within the scale, right? Now, what I'm doing here, I've identified it's the key of A. So that means the A note, ideally, if that's how you're going to play this along to this, would be your 1. In that 4-note box, you have your 1, your 2, your 4, and your 5, right? 4 is always under 1. And that's what you're doing off of what you feel is the root of the key of this song, or this chord progression. So we're thinking A or A minor, it's all the same. Minors and majors share the same note, A. Sharps and flats are a different note, right? So we're just playing little riffs within that scale here. So the whole 1-4-5 pops up. You just heard me talk about it. Once we determine what key we're in, right, that becomes the 1. And now we've got our 4-note box, but this time we're going to put number to it, right? So it's 1, 2, 4, 5. Now, the 1 and the 5, right, always get along well. So if we have, say, a 1 of C, right, then the 5th of C would be 1 down, and there it is right there, G. Now, if we just play C and G together, that is a C5 power chord, because we're playing the 1 and the 5 only. So that's a power chord. It may look like I'm playing a bar chord, it may look like I'm playing all the strings, but I'm only playing the 2 notes, so it's a bar chord. So these notes, 1 and the other end corner of the box are really, think of them as foundation. That's how I look at them, goalposts, right? In that I can solo off the, or lick off the one, whatever I want to play, whether it's a, I'm always going to come back 1, 2, 4, 5, whatever, back to the 1. And I can expand from the 5, and I can use the 5 as kind of a temporary 1, if you want to look at it that way. Maybe do a little thing. There's that 5 again. Let's go home. There's the 1, the C again. So you see what I did? So I just counted 1, 2, 4, 5 over, and then I temporarily assigned that as the new 1, right? So I played a little box. Now here's why this works. Because the 1 is a C, right? 1, 2, C, D. There's the 4, there's my F, and there's my G. Well, guess what's under the 5? A new 1. So this one right here is the same as this one right here. So that's how the relevance of that, knowing the 1, 2, 4, 5, so you know where you are all the time. It's like anchors as you're going up the mountain. And once you know you're in A, so A is 1. So that's all you got to remember. And then you're playing a series of 1, 4, 5s off a root note. And then it's up to you and how well you know your fretboard to play at different A's in this case, right? So we're going to go A, right? So here's an A here. So if I do a little off that A, then I can go to this A here, right? Or this A here. Or then there's a new 1 under the 5, so it starts again, another box. But the same notes, just higher. As these notes. Right? As these notes. Or here. They're all the same. Okay? So, what determines how good you need to get is when you can buzz around that fretboard playing all these little identical licks off of each different root on your fretboard. That's what having knowledge of the fretboard, that's how it makes you a better guitar player. Is it something you need? No. As most of the useless stuff I show you, you don't need it. But yeah, you can see that it's going to make you more versatile. It's going to make you more what do we got? Oh, sorry, we do have, hi Vic, how are you? I can't say I have Black Creek. No. Is it a regional thing? I don't recall seeing that brand anywhere. Hello, Lex G. Hi, Vic, and sorry about the philosophy there. I'm not following that. So, anyways, all right. So we're talking about. Oh, sorry. We are talking about how to approach playing licks, riffs, whatever you want to call them.
You're going to be really blown away by this. Just going to press this and see what it gives us.
And we, so I'd like to now show you more of the relevance of that whole numbering thing that I was just explaining. Because there is relevance, and in how many years can we learn guitar? That's up to you. Gaming master, that's up to you. Sorry, my thing went down the wrong hole there. That's up to you. Everybody's different. You will need a set of coordination. Like if you have a history of good hand-eye coordination, good perception, sharp reflex skills, um, that will definitely help. It's not, you can build those, but if you've already got them from past things or the way your lifestyle or your hobbies, other hobbies or interests or occupation, whatever, then you got a head start, because the biggest part of learning the guitar and what determines how quick you're going to do it is the time it takes you to start getting these hands working without thinking about it, doing all the things you need to do, which is form your chords or play your notes and scales, as simultaneously you pick out exactly the right strings at the right time, all that stuff, right? That's when any way you want to talk about it or think about it or label it. At the end of the day, it's not music. You're just training yourself to work your hands. Remember that. That's why you can play guitar without knowing anything about music theory. Plain and simple. I played for 5 years before I realized, why are there different keys? Why are there, what's the relevance of a key? I didn't know how to build a chord. I didn't know what the difference between a minor and a major. What's the difference between a minor and a major chord? I don't know. What's a seventh chord? I don't know. So I go to the inner Google. Okay, you want to see a seventh chord? There you go. There's a seventh chord. Oh, here's a seventh chord. Because I could just read the dots, right? So you don't need this stuff. But for those of you that do want to move on, right? Because it will make you a more versatile player, make you more creative, and it make it easier. If you do want to move on, then I highly recommend the first thing you learn when it comes to theory. I've already told you to look out for your root notes, okay? Like, so when you're playing an open chord and you're getting pretty good and everything, when you got nothing to think about because you don't have to think about how great you're strumming your C chord now, then think about, hey, what's the root note? Well, it's this note here, the lowest note that matches the name of the chord. So C, that's a C note on my ring finger, right? And it's the root of the C chord. It's the first one that we're supposed to strum, okay? C note, C chord. D note, open D string before the chord is the root note, etc., etc. Learn your root notes, okay? Then from there, good question. I'll get to it in a second. Good question. But, so, yeah, so as I was saying, I didn't know anything to do with any kind of theory at all, so you don't need this. But if you're going to do it, learn the roots and then learn the formulas that are used to make the chords. Now, here is where that 1, 4, 5, when I was sort of dribbling around over that A progression there, this is more the relevance now. See, don't confuse this with, for those of you that started learning scales, the 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, 6/8 stuff. That's not what that's about. This is completely different. What that is to show you the exact hand position to play a chord or a scale in that relative position, and that's it. Once you leave there, now it's all those numbers have changed. Whereas the whole numbering system that is assigned to notes and chords, that never changes. You can move that around from 1 to 1 to 1 and match them up, the 1, 4, 5. That's the difference. Okay? So that's why this numbering system, the habit of learning what the notes are in the chord and what the chord is in the key, they're the same. And that's a good thing to learn. You may not understand why and to the full extent, but when you see why, You're going to look and go, Mamma mia, why didn't I do this earlier? This was so easy, it's laughable. It literally is like grade school. Those of you old enough to remember the Dewey Decimal System, and you had a graph with 0,0001, and the relevance of that's a 1, that's a 10, that's a 100 column, that's a how we learn kind of thing. Once you see the relevance of the notes, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the notes in a scale, and the number of chords 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a key, you're like, oh, geez, that's why that's called a seventh chord. That's why that's an add 9 chord. When you see it up on the wall and you see how the numbers work, it's all math and it's all there. Okay, so formulas. Now, what we're going to deal with in pretty much 98% of the songs you're going to learn, you're only going to need the minor and the major formulas. Really, that's it. Okay. Now, what's the formula? Or what is a formula? What does it do? Well, the formula helps us identify the notes in a chord. At the same time, identify the chords in a key. All right? So let's take a look at how that would work. Well, we were doing A, so let's do A. So we were noodling around in A minor pentatonic. Well, we were whatever to listening to something. So let's use A. Let's use A minor, and we're going to do the minor formula. All right. So the minor formula: 2 1 2 2 1 2 2. So it's like a phone number, like ordering a pizza. 2 1 2 2 1 2 2. Now, some of you might know that as whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. Same thing. How that pertains to the fretboard is whole is one whole step, 2 frets. So when you have a G and you go up one whole step, you go up 2 frets, and you now have an A. When you have a G and you go up 1/2 step, you now have a G sharp or an A flat, and that's a half step. Whole step is 2, 1 fret is half, right? So now we have to put that formula to use on our fretboard. So what we're going to do, we're A minor, which is the key of A. It's the minor key of A, right? So A minor. So A is the note that we're looking for. So we're going to take an A on any string. For demonstration, I'm going to use this A here because I'm going to use one string to show you how the scale works. So this here, A, is 1. This is the first note in the A scale. It is the first note in the A chord. And it is the first chord, A minor in this case, in the key of A minor, right? That's the relevance of that 1 right there. Now, the formula said 2 1 2. So from the root note, we go up 2, and we have a B. So the second note in the A scale is B. The second chord in the key is B. Right? Now we have to go up 1, because we've got to go whole, 2, 1, 2. So whole, and we go up 1. What do we have? We have a C. So the third note is C. Now we got to go another whole. The fourth note is D. Another whole. The fifth note is E. Then we go 1. There's an F. and we go 2, and there's a G. Okay? 2 more, we're back to our A. Whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. So we've just identified, called out each note of the A scale. Don't matter if it's minor or major, same notes. So we now know the notes, and because they're exactly the same, we now know the chords. Right? Almost. So we now know those letters. We can write them out, whatever. So A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. But we don't know if they're minor or major. So in a minor key, the first chord, the fourth chord, and the fifth chord. There's that number again, 1, 4, 5. Remember the box, right? 1, 4, 5, right? So in A, we would be A, 1, and then we would go to the 4, which in this case is under here. There's the 1, 4, 5, right? So in this case, we're in a minor key. The first chord is A minor. Then we go up. We've identified all those. Everybody knows the letters. So now we have our letters. We now know the chords. But what we don't know is the minor and the major. Sorry, I just lost the spot there. We don't know if it's minor or major. So in a minor key, it's 1, 4, 5 is minor. The 2 is a diminished always in any key. And a diminished, for example, here, B diminished in the key of A, you don't even have to, don't even worry about playing it. It's played basically like this. And it's a weird sounding chord that you will use in jazz, and you will use in reggae, and you'll use it in classical music, but you're not going to use it in the music you're going to play. So we don't worry. Just like in a major chord, we don't worry about the 7th, which is a diminished chord. So the 2 is always diminished. So the 1 is a minor, 2 is diminished, 3 is a major, and the 4 and 5 are minors. So there's your 1, 4, 5. It's so important. In a major key, they're always major. In a minor key, they're always minor. 1, 4, 5. They're very important chords and numbers to know. So now we know what the 1 chord is, A minor. We know what the 2 chord is, B diminished, because it's a 2. The 3 chord is a C, and because it is a 3 chord, it is a C major. The 4th chord, we went up the 2, another whole step, is the D, and because it's a 4, it's a D minor. To the E, which is a 5, so it's an E minor. To the F major, to the G major. That's how you determine the chords minors or majors. So now we know what the notes are of the scale. We now know what the chords are of the key of A minor, right? Now, let's say you had to play an A minor chord. How do we make that chord up from the information we just learned? Well, the triad, the triad is the 1, the 3, and the 5 note, okay, of the chord that you're playing. So I want to play an A minor. So that means I got to play simultaneously at least one of each of these 3 notes, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th. And in this case, that would be A is the 1st, right? The 3rd would be C, right? So we're going to play the 4th we don't need is a D, and the 5th is an E. So we have to play an A and a C and an E together. And that's exactly what you're doing when you play your A minor shape. There's your C, there's your E, and there's your A. Right? So that's how you make the chord out of those notes. That's how you find what the notes are, because they're all numbered. So that's the 1, 3, 5 you have right now of the A minor chord. That you've identified each note, found out what it was, and put it to use. Okay? Now, if we wanted to play a 7th note, or a 7th chord, A minor 7, we got a couple choices. We just add a 7th note, okay? Or we just take away this ring finger, and that's our A minor 7, because we've now taken the ring finger off the G, which is the 7th note in A, and it rings out as a G. So now we're playing an A minor 7. So that's why when you Google that chord, you might get a different version. You might say, you're kind of like, what? It's one of them. You are holding your shape. You're lifting your ring finger and adding the pinky. But you know what? A lot of people just play that A minor and just put their pinky on G, right there. Right? Some people do that. It's a preference. Like in anything in music, there's often many ways to do different things, and in the end of the day, whatever sounds right for you is what you play. So yeah, that's why you learn that formula or formulas. Now, there is a formula for every type of scale. So, for example, that major scale, there's a formula for that, and that is different to the minor. It's 2-2-1, 2-2-2-1, right? As instead of 2-1-2, 2-1-2-2. So it's different. So we do the same thing, but we would use that formula to say what the notes are of the major scale, the A major. We just did the A minor scale, right? So the A major scale. So that's how, what are the keys in A major, or chords in A major? Oh, okay, so you would do the same thing, but you would use a different formula. You would use 2, so A would be still a B, but now we'd go to the C sharp instead of the C, because that's where the next one took us, another whole step. So we went 2, 2, whole, and then half. So that would be A to B, B to C sharp to D. So the first notes are A, B, C, sharp D. All right, that's okay. So that's the relevance of that formula. So now you can easily identify the notes of the chord you're playing. And then if you turn those into chords, they're the exact same. So in the key, right? In this case of A, what are we doing? So the first chord is A. The second would be a B, but it's a minor because it's a second chord in a major. So it would be a minor. The third would be a minor, right? So A would be 1 major. B, we go up a whole step, would be B minor. Another whole step would be C sharp minor. 1 would be to the D major, E major, 1, 4, 5, and then back to the minor, and the last one is diminished in a major chord. But the one before that was a minor chord. So it can be a little confusing at first, for sure. Keep them separate, okay? And they're all on one string. Every one of these formulas. So for example, for a 7th chord, the formula would say 1, 3, 5, 7, or it might be a flat 7. And that means that you would play, which you already are in the A minor, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th. So you're already playing that. It's what do you do? How do you do? It's the 7th that you got to figure out where to put it, how to play it. And if it's in a chord where you've got to play a flat 7th, then you got to move wherever the 7th is. You move it down one fret, half step, to flatten that note. That's all that stuff means. If it's a diminished chord or a suspended chord, so you might see a sus2. Now that would mean that a certain note is suspended or augmented or diminished. And all that means is we're going to remove a note, add a note with a finger, or by removing an already fingered string to let it ring open as a different note. Or we're going to, so what did I say? Add a note, remove a note, or move a note from one place to another. That's your whole augmented, suspended, diminished explanation. So the chart would say, it might say a first, a third, a perfect fifth, and a flat seven, and a major nine, or something like that. And literally, if you did the numbers, you would have your fingers on the letters to play that chord. You just strum that chord. That's how the theory works. So by knowing things like that, makes it a lot easier to learn songs, makes it a lot easier to write and compose. It makes it a lot easier when you're playing because you already kind of have an idea where this is heading, right? Where the chords are going. If you don't know the song and you're listening along and you know it's in the key of C, well then you know, so if I know that C is 1, right, and D minor is 2, and another popular one would be the 4 and the 5, so that would be F and G. So now I got this. You got like this chord progression that is very song-like. Think I'll go out to Alberta where the good da da da, right? Or you might go whatever. You see where I'm heading with that, right? And that's just following a numbered chord progression. If you were playing along, then what you could do is you could play a little lick off of each chord's number 1. So if you were playing a chord progression of C, D minor, F, G, back to the C, then as they change chords, you'd play a little lick off the C. Then when they changed from there to the D minor, you could play a little thing off the D. And then when it went to the next chord, whatever it was, F, you could play a little diddly-do off the F, or whatever you see what I mean? And you're playing like the same little noodle, a 1, 2, 4, 5 box, but you do it each time you change the chord, the note corresponding to that chord, the root note, becomes the number 1 again. So you play the same 4-note pattern off of a different number 1. See? And you do that each time the chord changes. That's pretty cool. You can also just take the overall key of the progression, like where it's from, so in the key of C, and you could just play as if everything was the same. So in other words, no matter what chord was playing, you could still maintain this little box and not leave it. And yeah, it would help if you could maybe get to the C when the C chord came around, but really, if you can make it work elsewhere, you're welcome. I mean, but you're gonna, like that's all you need to do throughout the whole song is play off the key note, and you'll be just fine. It won't be spectacular, but it'll be just fine, right? But the real bang comes when you make little riffs that you then can play. Or, like little repetitive things that you can play multiple places on the fretboard is pretty cool. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know the song, and if you're talking about Slash, you're talking about lead guitar, licks, riffs, things like that, which is what we're talking about. But I don't know the song. I'm not an electric guitar player per se. If you're a beginner, like I'm not sure what your goal is. Do you want to be more of a lead guitar player, or I'm not sure, because I don't usually talk about this kind of stuff. We're usually more about strumming and playing open chords and building songs and learning how to play and strum and make good solid chord progressions. I just happen to be talking about a bit of theory today, based on a short that I released today, that I threw up there about this very thing, right? don't be overwhelmed by guitar theory. So I don't think I can help you directly. I'm sorry, as I don't know that song. But so the other thing that I wanted to mention is don't get overwhelmed when you look at the list of these formulas, because you're going to see ones that I mentioned already about the seventh chords. Well, their formula is going to go, remember, like the Dewey Decimal System, and so you're going to go again to another digit because you're going to now invoke the seventh note, or some of them call it the seventh degree of the scale, right? So that's how that works. Things like add 11, for some silly reason, the 11th note is actually so once you get to the end, you just keep counting. So, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A would be the 8. So the octave is 8, is A. 9 would be, add 9 would be add a B. 10 is C, and D would be 11. So that's why it's done. It's probably because to make sure that it's the next octave, maybe. I don't know. And that's probably what it is to make sure that, like, you could, let's say you had a choice of two Bs or two of the notes they ask, and one was lower than the other. It probably means play the higher one if the number is higher. I'm only guessing, right? Educated guessing kind of deal. But a lot of this stuff, when you really look at it and break it down, is just a load of common sense. And like I said, I don't scratch deep into it because I don't have to. At what I want out of my guitar, I've already surpassed that. Like, I would have never thought, I've said that many times, doing what I'm doing now, and I would have never thought I'd be writing and doing well at open jams and playing gigs and all that kind of stuff and open mics. Never would have thought that. So oh, that's pretty cool. You're probably learning electric guitar, I would imagine. Oh, sorry. I noticed that you've been holding it. Oh, it is on acoustic. Sorry, I didn't realize that. I'm not sure who you're speaking of, but it sounds like you got a pretty decent guitar mentor there at your hands. So I'd take advantage of that if I were you. It sounds like you're still probably going to be wanting to play more of a slash style, which is really more notes. He plays a lot of triads, which is what I would recommend. If anybody was just right off the bat, they just said, look, I just want to play lead, I want to play scales, I want to play riffs, I want to play, that kind of stuff, especially electric. I'd say, look, why don't you start right off the bat with triads? And, again, I don't know anything about you. I don't even know how old you are or anything like that, or what kind of guitar you got, but whatever, and what you want to do. But if you're leaning towards that style and even electric guitar, I would start with triads. And it's still a chord. All chords are triads. It's just what type of chords are they? They're either open chords, or they're bar chords, okay? Or they're what we call triads. But they're all chords, and they're all of 3 notes, okay? So that's, if they have more than 3 notes in them, it's because they're a specialty chord. They're an add-on, what we call an add-on chord. So it's a chord plus something, right? So if it's, it could be A minor 7, A minor sus, A minor whatever. Okay, that's the relevance. So you're still only playing the 3 notes of the triad, no matter how you play it. So if that's the case, your best bet is to start right off on triads, because triads will give you the built-in shape of everything you need. You'll be playing your fingers will be on one version of the 1-3-5, okay, which is what? The chord. So in other words, when you are playing a D shape here, and you're only playing those 3 strings, This is just as an example, okay? I'm not. So this note here, that our big finger, the first string, right? That's a B. This note here is a D on this finger. And this here is a G. So GBD is the G triad. So this is a G chord if I play only these three strings. So this is the same as, but just a higher pitch than this. Now, when I play this, I play 6 strings, but I'm only playing 3 notes, G, B, and D. The next string is a G, the next string is a B, and the next is a fretted G. There's your G chord, G, B, and Ds. So it's called an open chord because there's open strings that are one or more notes of the triad. They're not open strings ringing out as an F or a C, because there's no F or C in a G chord. The open strings are ringing out as G, D, and B. Those are the notes of the triad. So that's why you can play them as open strings, thus called an open chord. Now, a bar chord, so let's, what chord did we use? G. So let's use G. A bar chord is the same thing. We are barring these strings to get this note right here, the G. There's the G. The bar here is useless because behind these fingers that are fretting these notes, it's useless. So it doesn't play anything there. So we only have this, and that's a G. The next note we're fretting is a D. The next note that we're fretting here is a G. And the next note that we're fretting here with this finger is a B. The next note that we're fretting is fretted with our fleshy part. That's a G. And the one above it, same fret, is a D. So whether you're able to do that or not, see, that's why bar chords are tough. Whether you can do that or not, when you play those 6 strings, you are only playing G's, B's, and D's, nothing else. Therefore, you're playing a triad. But we call this triad because all the strings are fretted one way or another. We call that a bar chord. So that simulates playing here with the nut. Okay? But all chords, the only exception is the power chord, because it doesn't have a third. It only has a first and a fifth. So when you see a G, we'll stay with G, I guess, a G power chord, you're playing the G note. I mean, you could play over it. I mean, I bet you bass players do that. Anyways, that's another story. G. Now, the first and the fifth. So if we go here, then we go down to our fourth and over, there is your fifth. So play these together. There's your G5 power chord. It has no third note, which is going to come from this finger the minute I put it right here, which is the third, the B. G, A, B of the triad. There's your third note. A G, did I say G-A? Sorry. I think you know what I meant. G, B, D. Sorry. Of the triad. I get confused sometimes. So you're just missing the third, which is the B. Now you got the G and the D, the first and the fifth. That's a power chord. This makes it a major chord. Right? We add that seventh in the bar or here, makes it a seventh chord. You see? That's the relevance of the numbers. So oh, 18, look. You got your whole life to learn this stuff, but that's good. You start, yeah, I would learn the basics. Learn your triads, learn how to play them. So a series of open chords, like we're playing mostly here. Then you're going to move on to your actually playing your triads. Yeah, it's you know what? You got a nice. So here's my C triad. So I can put, so the reason I say that is, so just playing around, I have a G, I have a C, or I'm sorry, this is a C triad. I have a C, I have a G, and I have an E. C, E, G is the natural triad of a C major chord. You know when we play like this? There's the C, there's the E, right? And there's the C, so two C's. The G comes from the open G string right here, right there. So when we strum them all, we're only strumming 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we are playing a C, an E, a G, open, a fretted C, and an open E. But we're only playing C's, E's, and G's. That's it. The triad. So that's what I would do. So you starting to learn how to play triads like this. So there's my C, D, E, F, G. You can play now. You know, now you learn that shape, and then you might learn. You move it down here. You can get your G, A flats and G flats and things like that, and E flat. Like you got all kind, and that's how Slash plays. Learn, as I said, learn your triads. It's all about triads at that level. It takes you to another level, and that's what I would concentrate on, and just play every day. Hey, Red, how are you? Sorry, I'm having trouble with my message thing here. I've been... Yeah, I know. Red, you know what? Me too. I didn't know this stuff for 5, 6 years that I was playing. I didn't know this stuff. I was writing songs, and I didn't know the relevance of keys and what chords were in keys and why they were in there and how the chords are made. Now, I don't mean I was completely oblivious. I watched the videos. I did all this. I watched other versions of me trying to explain to people like me, the dummy me, you know, where everything is, why it's there. But that meant nothing to me. And it won't to you, or not you personally, but as a beginner. So don't even worry about it. You don't need it. Of course it helps. Of course it helps you become good quicker. Of course it makes you more effective later, more versatile, more creative, sure. But you don't need it. You can play thousands of songs without having to know how those chords in those songs are made, right? That's the reality. As long as you go to inner Google and you punch everything in and you get the things, okay, that's an A minor, got to put my fingers there, that's a C, I got to put it there, and that's a G. And now if Google tells me if I do this, right? You don't have to know why or how that G is put together. but it's real cool once you find out. So congratulations. It sounds like you might have had a light bulb moment there, Mr. Phoenix. And and that's like me too. I used to watch these videos, as I was saying, and I'd watch them 9, 10 times, and I'm like, yes, on a chalkboard or a piece of paper, I'm 100. But when I try to put that here, that's where the disconnect was for me. And that's probably because of my complete lack of any kind of musical experience, like no kind of formal training, never played a note of music until I turned 50. So that's why, right? Probably. Who knows? Maybe it's just the way it is. But I just didn't make the connection. And it wasn't, I'd been playing a long time when I finally made that connection. I'm fretting the 3 notes of the triad that make the, root note. I know what a root note is. I know why a root note is important now. Oh, boy. Now I know why the root note's so important. Now I get it. Like all these things, So the first 9, 10 times I watched these videos, nothing. But the 24th time that I watched, that's when it stuck. So congratulations. Every breath you take. I know the regular major chords, did you mean to say? Yeah, if you know the 1-4-5s in the beginner's keys, well, the reason they call it beginner's keys or cowboy keys is because those are the keys that have the most open chords in them. So like keys of C, key of G, key of D kind of thing. It starts getting little fuzzy after that. You might only get 1 or 2 open chords in some of those keys and then eventually none. Every breath you take. I don't know the song, but I believe it's one of those songs with that famous 4-chord progression. Now, Sting might, that's the thing too. I did a video about the weird chords when you're learning songs. Don't worry about all those slashes and letters like diminished and og and sus and 4 and all that. Don't worry about that. Just play whatever that first note is. So if it's A/ or A dim sus 2, just play the A. That's all you got to do, right? So in his case, I believe it is something along the lines of something like that. You got to get the rhythm. Like you got to get it figured out when he switches the chords. But it's if you just get a groove going between those 4 chords. You can hear that right, that part there. Or he might go no, I think it's C and then D. Maybe it starts in off the E minor. No. But yeah, it's those 4 chords. I've got the same issue, not maybe as bad. Mine is early onset, and I have good days and bad days. Start, pretty much forget about probably bar chords and playing all these fancy 7th chords where you got to extend your pinky and stuff. So don't even worry about that. You don't need it, okay? If you want your chord progression, let's say you're playing an A, D, E, and you can't play the 7ths, you can't make it sound uppity. And I'm talking about if you're playing on your own. You can't do this if you're playing with other people. But you know what you can do? You can always stick a capo on the 1st fret. And then, you know what? That just gives your A a little more of a, and your D, you're still playing a regular D, right? But it gives it a bit of a, more of a kick. You also might explore 2-finger chords. Start learning to play chords in a different way, using less fingers sometimes. So some examples would be, instead of having to use all 3 fingers curled over with quite a bit of pressure to play that A chord, you know, you could play it with just the one. Now, if you've noticed, when you play a lot of your chords, your hand, your hand is in a position in that your fingers sort of point a 45 up here. That's the way I always looked at it. C, A minor, you know, you got your D, look how the fingers are angled. You got your G, especially when you play it. I'm going to play it the beginner way. Then you got your E minor played this way, and everything is in the right order, except, as you just saw, that G chord. Too much moving around. So you're going D, F. Look at my hand. It's always the same. Just my fingers are, but they're always kind of on that 40. You know, I'm just mucking around. I'm not trying to make a song or anything. But look how my fingers are going from one to the other. A minor, E minor, A minor, D minor, F, C. Now there's the G. Okay. Now in your way or beginner's way, you got to kind of twist up your fingers. Your wrist is in a different position. Then you got to move all the way back like this and land again perfect for the C. G, C. Killer of hand. So it's awkward at first. I didn't start doing this for a few years after I started playing, so it was pretty awkward. But I got to tell you, it didn't take long. Like, I didn't just cold turkey it. So I'd be playing my G, and every now and then I'd think about it, okay, now. And I'd try to land it, and then I go back instinctively to the old G. And then I have to think about it, okay, stay there, back fingers, okay. And I just got better and better at it and started using it gradually more and more. And before I knew it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm instinctively going to the new G. Now I go. I got so much more ability to move around all the chords faster and less movement. Everybody hits it at some point, you know. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially if your guitar is a little, sometimes I'll just do this, right? I'll just put the capo on 2. That's my go-to fret. And all of a sudden like this guitar needs work. It's just a matter of me, I got to drop it off and have it done and book the time and all that stuff. And I got to do it. I need this guitar, so it needs work. So sometimes if I know, especially if I'm going to work on bar chords or triads, because I'm going to be fingering chords a lot with my back fingers, I don't want the action. So I'll throw a capo on 2, just to make the bar chord nice, and I don't know, it just seems nice. It's so much easier to play. You know, but then of course when you take it off, it's ah! But so anyways, that's sometimes I just throw a capo on. Even just, and if I'm finger picking, for sure, I love this. So I put a capo on 2 and even 3, right? And I'll just sit there. Feels so, like, it just feels tight. Everything is tight. So yeah, absolutely. You know, again, especially if you live in climates that change, your guitar can fluctuate like mine is right now, but mine needs work. So Uh, yeah, the low E. Yeah, it does. You'll see. It happens. You just, you know what? You have no proof of this, but I'm telling you, I used to think the same thing. I used to watch people, or I'd see it on a video or whatever, and it would talk about, other ways to play bar chords. And one of the biggest ways they show you is if instead of using the bar, remove the bar, pick those two notes with the tip of the finger, and bring your thumb over like that. Okay? Now, this I found horribly inconvenient. And I'd see these guys, because I used to wonder what they were doing when I'd see them go up and down the neck like that. I find that horribly uncomfortable. Because the way your thumb is, you're right, you got to get it, because you got to fret it. Now, what I'm talking about, or what you might be wondering about, is muting, is completely different. So when you're playing that C, all you need to do is I'm just touching the look, it doesn't ring out because I'm just touching it. That's all you need. You don't have to fret it. If I go like that, I'm playing a note, F sharp. Not a good one, but a note. You just touch it and it mutes it right out. You just let that string. So it's a little easier. So I used to say what you did, and now and then, and all of a sudden I just started doing it, and I didn't even know I was doing it. It was just natural. So don't fret over it. Get it? Oh, yeah, nice. Martin, nice road series. I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah, I know that. Nice. Yeah, that's a very nice guitar to play, and if you're learning, that would be a great guitar to learn on as well, right? So, but yeah, I mean, look, it's sort of, light bulb moments. They come, they go, you know, stuff happens. It's great. I've had many, and I still have them to this day. For the most part, I have slowed down my progress, though, as far as like journey-wise, because at this point I realize like I'm not a band guy. I've tried it. I've played with people like at jams, and I've gone and played with an existing duo. I knew some of the covers they did for the one set. I knew the covers, and I learned two of their originals, and I sat in with them for a short set at this place as like it was a plugged in gig, and I had to know my stuff. And I realized it's not really for me. There's a lot of reasons, but at the end of the day, I enjoy playing on my own or for myself. I have no problems playing for people or having them listening. I have no problems. I didn't for the longest time. I would be one of those that would shut down if someone came in the room. But that just sort of ended. That's a self-confidence thing. And that's one of the things I talk about all the time, because we have it in the back of our head. That is exactly a T-shirt right there. The problem is you don't. Yeah, it is a T-shirt. It's I actually made one like that, but it didn't turn out properly, and a few of the words mingled in with the wire. I was using one of these Cricut things, home steamer things, and then I ran out of the vinyl that you need to make it's quite complicated. It's not easy. And it's just sitting there in limbo, but it says, I think your exact wording was "don't fret over it," and mine was "don't fret it." But either or is pretty good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great if you've got a buddy that's established. So what I enjoy is I have a couple of in-person students. One of them is, they're all like, nobody's young. So, well, young is 40s, of course is young, but you know what I mean? I'm not talking about kids or anything. So the and the one fellow has restrictions on his hand, so very limited movement with these two fingers makes it very difficult. So the arthritis question, the two finger chords, there are so many. Like for example, you can play this chord here. For example, you could play. There's an A and a C, right? You can play. You could play two finger C, two finger G, two finger A, or these two fingers, two finger E minor, a two finger D. Like you can, now you in some cases will be playing a modified version like we talked earlier of the chord. Like it could be a D7 you're playing, or a D sus. Absolutely, but it's still a D, okay, or a D major 7. It's still a D, okay. And if you're playing, the beauty is if you're playing on your own, it doesn't really matter. But of course, if you're playing with another guitar player that's playing a D, you have to play the D. Now, as for anybody that's lucky enough to have a friend that plays guitar, that's the best thing because you're comfortable, and you could have. I used to have someone who could just, I could play too. So he would sit there and just go. Right? And I would follow along the best I can. And he was experienced enough that it didn't mess him up, and he just kept it down, and I was able to finally lock in and follow. But if I was nervous or scared or wonder what someone was thinking about me or afraid of making a bum of myself, then I probably wouldn't have been able to lock in, right? So it's important to have someone like that. That's great. And if you're at the stage where you want to start maybe playing some solos or licks or leads or whatever, by all means, if to have a buddy lay down a 3 or 4 chord progression where you could sit there and sort of, right, that kind of thing, like that's awesome, Yeah, yeah, the drums. But see, that's something I've always kind of wanted to do. But yeah, open chords really are all you need to get you going to playing thousands of songs. It's just the best way to look at it. You may never have to need any other way to play chords. And again, as I always say, the only reason you would need to learn advanced techniques like bar chords and power chords and theory and scales and triads and all that kind of stuff and augmented chords and diminished chords is depending on your musical journey. Like, what do you want to play? What kind of music do you want to play? Are you in a band? Do they demand that you play these kind of chords? Like, everyone has, are you young and you want to spend the 10,000 hours necessary to master your craft through training and education? Well, you got to know all these things. Might as well get it over with, right? But for the rest of us that just want to have fun, we don't ever need to know any of that stuff. So that's why I always say on every live show and many videos, you don't need this stuff. I'm going to show it to you, but you don't need it, right? So today when we talked about all those minor formulas and major formulas and how we can identify the notes in a chord and the chords in a key, you don't have to know any of that. You just got to know how to punch in your song into the inner Google. It'll give you everything. You might have to tweak it a little bit. And I just actually uploaded a video yesterday. Go check it out. If you do me a favor, it's called How to Learn Songs for Beginners. So it's just a checklist that I go through. That when I want to learn a song, because I get that, I get someone, hey, we're gonna go there's an open jam. You want to come? But we're gonna play this song together, or whatever. And I got to learn it or fine tune it or whatever. I take you through the steps to get you figuring everything out, right? What to watch for on these chord sites, because there's some landmines out there, and you got to see. I didn't know why there was all these different versions, and so I explain all that. And if you go check it out, leave a comment or something, say, hey, thanks, hi, cool, terrible, whatever. That would really help. Anyways. Hey, no problems, Red. No problem, Jimmy. I know I get a lot of, and rightly so, and it's all good, I get a lot of lurkers. We average multiple thousand of views per live. We've had as many as 17,000. We usually average somewhere, it all depends, really on the day, the night, maybe the subject. It's really kind of hard to pin things down with YouTube or with any of these. So who's on where, who's watching from where, who cares, who doesn't, you know. But, you know, we're pretty, we're getting to be a large following of people that I think are finally realizing that we don't have to follow the book. Okay? It's so important. You don't have to play. In fact, you shouldn't play by the book. I tried the book twice, and I lasted a year both times before I quit. When I threw the book away, within months, I was playing 30 songs, pretty good. People that hadn't seen me for a few weeks were like, what have you been doing? Like, what's going on? Like, I made a lot of gains fast, and it all just fell into place. And it wasn't until I threw the book away. So that's why I urge people to do the same. You don't need it. There are some fundamentals that you learn as a beginner that are perfect, that help without you even knowing, start to instill things inside you like timing, and start working on your ears so you know what C and G sounds like together. And you know that when you strum your guitar in the future, you may not know exactly, but you'll know when it doesn't sound right. You know, you might be hearing somebody play and you go, I don't know if that's a C or a D or a B. But if they played it like this as a C, you'd go, that's not a C, dude. You're building that from day one. You know, we talk about the dreaded M word, the metronome. You should use a metronome, absolutely. But if you don't or can't, don't sweat it. Right? You'd be surprised at what you can do and change once you get confident and become a guitar player. Even if it's just a 3-4 chord guitar player. You brush that up, do it well, and do it phenomenally, and have great strumming, and everything else can fall into place. Then, when you're confident and experienced, you can sit down, put a big metronome on, turn it up to high, and just go, you know, click, 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 click. And every click is perfect and everything. You can do that. I still am all over the place, but I was horrible way back. Everybody, should have used a metronome. Got to use a metronome. Use a metronome. I tried. I couldn't do it. It was like rubbing and patting at the same. I couldn't do it. And I'm not patient, so I gave it a bit of time, and that's it. Out the window with the metronome. So, you know. Then later, like I said, once I had some swagger, then I sat down, put the metronome on, and yeah, sloppy, but then I had the ability to correct it and figure it out. Oh, there it is, yeah. There it is, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay. And so, don't get me wrong, if you can use a metronome after 1 week of playing and put it on and actually be able to match and change your chords, you're well ahead of the game, bud, because that took me a long time to the point where I could listen to something, strum the chords, and not fall out of whack. And the chords sounded half decent. That took me a long time. So, you know, what are you going to do? Oh my God, 2 cents. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I have no idea what half of that stuff is, but I know what you're saying. So you're locked in, plugged in. You're probably wired in through some sort of an interface, or you're going into a mixer and then into a computer. What are you doing? Like, that sounds like you got quite a setup there to start creating stuff. You know, that's the other thing too, right? I mean, it's all about the gear learning and stuff. So if you're going to, it all depends what you want out of it. You know, if you're going to stream and if you want to make and produce, then you got to get the gear. You got to get on that for sure, because you can't do it without. And then there's others that won't leave their kitchen or their sewing room or their bedroom or their den or their back deck or their garage, and that's where they'll play. And they'll do that most of the time, if not forever. And that's cool too, right? So, you know, it is what you make it, I suppose. So I guess the formula thing was okay. Everybody got that. Everybody understood that. There is a short video to reinforce. So in case, and yeah, I guess you can watch this one back. But as usual, I'd like to end off with saying thank you so much. If you've noticed, there are some minor things changing. Meaning that, like, I've been really pushing the lives. I've been doing a lot of lives. I've had a few requests to incorporate into to be a pitchman or a frontman for some companies or something, which I've declined. But it did get me to realize that, and as has been said before, that you should probably be. You're quite a character live, whatever. So I have been doing a little more live. I'll always give you some sort of nugget, but then there's going to be some shameless self promotion and some click here, subscribe there, all that kind of BS. But I think you understand that's the way this game works. And if you don't, I'll just quickly explain. I have no problems doing this. It is pretty much a hobby, but the hours are like a job. And it's pretty long. And you get into it too deep, you just can't give it up. So if you ever thought that you'd like to, thanks to YouTube, if you ever thought you'd like to help out with any way with the channel, every bit of donation goes back into it in form of cables and equipment and on and on. But there are multiple ways. I don't push it, but there are multiple ways to do so. There's a super chat thing or a sticker you can buy. You're basically throwing a tip. Maybe down the road, there'll be other things as well. If you want to get rid of the middleman, there is a PayPal link. You can send me a tip or a thank you. I'm not that shameless that I wouldn't take it. But again, I'm just mentioning it's not necessary. I enjoy what I do, and we do again, but just by viewing and liking and commenting and subscribing. Yes, we get money funneled in. There's a little dribble here and there some months. It's not my motivation. But having said that, for those of you who have asked about supporting or donating to the channel, hopefully, I don't know if I've done it right, but hopefully there is things in place that allow you to do that. And but it's definitely not expected or mandatory. So just so you know that. And other than that, if you haven't noticed, I'm on a lot more, and I'm posting at least a major length video per week. I'm going to try to step that up a little bit. It's hard to always get the perfect topic that can benefit you because there is so much out there, and I mean, there's a million places to learn how to play a C chord or learn how to play this song or that song. I tend to more want to talk about the philosophy of learning, what not to learn, what to learn, priorities of learning, how to learn, how I learn, based on you and what you need and what you want out of your guitar. So again, not out of the book, but hey, here's what we learn and know. So let's now talk about how we can apply that to our guitar at different levels. So hopefully that seems to be what people enjoy, and we are building all the time. The community is getting bigger, so I know there's more every day that are stumbling upon us and realize that you don't have to be a musician, you don't have to be young, you don't have to have any kind of past music experience or exposure whatsoever at all, and you can still really do well, have fun, and sound good if you know what to work on and how to work on it. And that's the key. And I spent almost 3 years between quitting and coming back sputtering around because I didn't know what I was supposed to learn or not learn. And what I wasted time on just blew my mind when I look back at some of the things that I wasted weeks and months on that I've never used and never will use. So just being able to be pointing someone in the right direction, or have someone being pointed in the right direction, is a huge benefit because it saves you time. And if you have careers and other hobbies and family and other responsibilities, your practice time is often limited and precious, and you need to make the most of it, right? So, nice. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. I have a Twitch channel as well. I have not been there for a long time, but I do plan on doing it. Um, yeah, meaning you probably play covers, you mean? Yeah, YouTube doesn't like any kind of covers. And if you're trying to monetize, you can't play anything at all, any covers without either editing them out or giving them the monetization or whatever. And sometimes I have a bone in my ass about that because we're really promoting any songs. If people hear me playing a song, they might be inspired to go and listen to that song, buy that music, learn how to play it on their own guitar. So I have a thing about these big multi-million-dollar publishing companies that's who they are, that come after you because you played a cover song in a set on YouTube, right? So, hello, Novaletta Blue. Okay, hello. Oh, thank you so much, Rockman. That's so nice of you. But yeah, we're all about common sense here. We're all about keep it simple. We're all about basic stuff, and that's what you get. Even though today we talked about 1-4-5 notes and scales and minors and majors and stuff, I still try to deliver it in a simplistic, easy to understand way. Okay? So, all right, I'm going to leave you with this for today. We will be back in a couple of days, no longer. And in the meantime, I'm working on a couple of cool little videos and hopefully have them ready soon. And if you haven't already seen it, please go take a look at a beginner's guide to how to learn songs. It's a good little thing. It's a few tips on how I approach learning songs, and I think it'll help you out. Any comments or suggestions that you can add, you can do it to the video. That'd be great. But go check it out. I think you'll enjoy it for learning your songs. All right? See you later. And remember, thank you, Red. Merry Christmas, strong English.